Okay, welcome back. Former President Trump has asked a federal judge in Florida, to force Twitter to restore his account. President Trump's attorneys Friday filed a motion seeking a preliminary injunction against Twitter and its CEO Jack Dorsey. They argue that Twitter is censoring the former president in violation of his First Amendment rights. So far, Twitter has declined to comment. The president's account was suspended following the Capitol breach back in January. Now, this comes as Facebook's whistleblower unveiling her identity in an interview with 60 Minutes this past week and alleging that the social network fed the Capitol riot. She also says Facebook put safeguards in place before the election to protect against misinformation, but as soon as it was over, they shut them off, alleging that they may have contributed to the breach at the Capitol, she said.
And as soon as the election was over, they turned them back off, or they changed the settings back to what they were before to prioritize growth over safety. And that really feels like a betrayal of democracy to me.
All right, joining us now to talk more about this, host of Stacey on the Right on Sirius XM and the co-chair of Project 21, Stacey Washington. Also with us, host of the Dan O'Donnell Show in Milwaukee on News Talk 1130. The man himself, Dan O'Donnell. And Ari Hoffman also has a show named after him called The Ari Hoffman Show on 570 KVI in Seattle. Great to have everyone here. How are we doing this Monday?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's talk about the whistleblower you know, what she said is that Facebook cared more about growth than protecting its users. But Stacey, I want to talk about this whole thing she said about helping incite the Capitol riot. She thinks Facebook contributed to this, but you know, if you listen to these folks, you know, Facebook isn't the only one, because any post anywhere on social media that may have helped organize the rally outside the Capitol, any of the folks who did not go inside, you know, they also get swept up in all of this. So what was your take on what we just heard from her there?
So first of all, I have a huge amount of respect for her coming out and basically destroying her career in the tech industry as far as social media by making these statements. And she sounds as if she's really concerned with keeping people safe. But she uses the same language that they use, mischaracterizing the riot on January 6th as an insurrection. The government did not change hands. We did not have a change in government on January 6th. Now, that being said, because I have to make that distinction because the truth matters, words matter, words, you know, meaning. But, you know, John, I have to say, it doesn't surprise me at all that they did that. They're a business, and they are in the business of selling our personal data and information for their profit. So, of course, they felt their work was done. The other thing I'd like to know is, in the trove of documents that she shares, is there anything relating to the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that Facebook donated to individual election boards and taxing authorities, taxing districts to influence elections last year? That's something we should be looking into as well. So I'm fascinated by this. I want to see more.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what she said about, you know, to Stacey's point, this woman, like so many others, you know, grossly exaggerate what happened on January 6th. But, you know, I think, you know, a lot of the more telling stuff, Ari, came from the comments about what Facebook is doing with kids and how they knew how Instagram was affecting their users, and they did it anyway. And I think the other thing, too, about this is what Facebook seems to do is get in a position where they're constantly having to talk about how they have sold out their own user base. And I think it was the Wall Street Journal today, there was a piece saying that, you know, what we learned from the Facebook whistleblower is, more than anything else, is that Facebook is in real trouble, and it may be a company that's seen its better days in the past.
100%. In fact, my kids, who use Instagram but use it less and less now, they're using other things like TikTok and who knows what else that I don't even know about. They call Facebook old people book. Yeah. They don't even want to be on the platform anymore, which is why Facebook is acquiring other things like Oculus Rift, like Instagram, things of that nature, because they know they have to get the younger generation, because we're the last Facebook generation. At the same time, they want to keep those kids addicted to it, and they know it has addictive properties. This is nothing new. I don't know why everybody's making such a big deal about it now. We've known this for ages. But also getting back to the January 6th thing, with regards to what she said, we knew these guys were planning Antifa riots in Seattle during the autonomous zone, everything else. Many of those posts were reported. I know because I reported a whole bunch of them about these riots, and they were never taken down. So it's complete hypocrisy that they say, oh, everything was planned on Parler or whatever it was, when really all these riots were being planned that happened over the summer of 2020 on Facebook, and they did nothing about it at all.
The other thing, too, Dan, is this whistleblower seems to indicate that the federal government has all the answers here when it comes to how to fix the problems. That regulation is the only way. I mean, you know, that was kind of wrapped in the subtext of what she was saying yesterday as well.
And she's going to be testifying to that effect this week. The solution on the left is, of course, always more government regulation. But the thing that really stuck with me after watching that 60 Minutes interview, John, was that Facebook had, quote, turned off its safety algorithm after the election. I want to know what information was it censoring before the election, because we do know that Facebook and Twitter and pretty much every other social media platform was censoring the story about Hunter Biden, which we now know to be absolutely 100% verified. Hunter Biden actually taking payments from the Chinese and the Russians, holding 10 for the big guy who is obviously Joe Biden. This was a major scandal that was actively covered up.
Yeah, we should take the Pulitzer Prizes away from the Washington Post and the New York Times. This is what Donald Trump was suggesting, and maybe give it to the New York Post or some of these other outlets that went with the Hunter Biden story, because we know that one is true. The other Russian collusion story is not so much. We also, Stacey, hear President Trump suing in Florida. I mean, this is part of Ron DeSantis' law. But he's suing in federal court. I don't know how this is going to work out here, but I guess this is his only option, right? Take it to the courts.
So yes and no. So first of all, I know that President Trump watches Newsmax. So hey, President Trump, it's a wonderful woman, Stacey Washington. That's what you said about me in the East Room. I'll never forget it. I just want you to pick a social media site or two and bring your massive following to those, and let's destroy Facebook and Twitter once and for all. And the reason I say that is because they're never going to behave, and they're never going to allow what actually should happen, which is data portability, 100% data portability from the website that you're on, so Facebook, to Gab, let's say, or what we can already do with Getter, which is you import all of your tweets and followers, and you just continue on as if you have always been on Getter. We need President Trump to make a decision about where he's going to put his social media and stop trying to get back onto Twitter, because their whole purpose of getting him off was to stop him from influencing things. He's a huge influence. He was literally the reason why millions of people were on Twitter, was because he was there. And so now he can move that considerable influence to another platform, and that's what we need.
I like the releases, quite frankly. It's very classy. And then everybody picks it up and runs with it. It's such a power move to put out a couple word statement, or sometimes even just putting out a meme, and it gets picked up by the entire press corps and runs with it. But I agree with you, Stacey. Sometimes you want that direct access to your followers. All right, Dan, Ari, and Stacey, stick around. We got them coming back. In the next hour, we're going to talk about the trouble with critical race theory and the problems that it is causing around the country.